Hey everyone, welcome to this 360 episode of how to operate a wheel loader. So yes, again, today's episode, we're getting right inside my head. I want you to see exactly what I'm seeing. So today we're running Komatsu WA270 wheel loader. First thing, 3 points of contact. Make sure your door's always locked open. 3 points all the way up. Have a seat. There's a door lock on these on the inside there. Pull that in. Okay, I'm gonna turn my key. Always when you're starting one of these up, turn the keys one to on. Make sure you got no warning indicators, anything like that. And then we turn it all the way over. While that's happening, we're gonna put a seatbelt on. Okay, now again, this is a 360 episode, so if you're the first time watching one of these, you can move your mobile device around anywhere you want, or wear VR goggles. We have how to watch 360 videos as a separate video on our under our playlist, one of our playlists on our YouTube channel. And then the other piece is we have regular how to operate wheel loader videos, so if you want to just watch one that's not a 360 view, feel free. But again, try and position your camera so you'll be able to see exactly what I'm looking at. So again, we're running a WA270 Komatsu loader. Couple things. I'm going to get my seat situated here. Obviously, there's a lot of different adjustments for your seat. You got your standard accelerator on the right side, brake pedal. There are two brake pedals. They're basically connected, same ones. Generally for new operators, I train just use your right foot, just like you'd operate a car. It causes a little bit less confusion. Now, on the controls on this wheel loader, this is a standard with our left. We got our steering wheel with our left side shifter. There's two different ways to shift a wheel loader, which I'll go over with you shortly. And then we've got our dash with all of our controls, and then our joystick and more controls over here. Now, first thing, most important, our parking brakes on. So on a Komatsu loader, there's a parking brake switch over here. You'll see there's an indicator on the dashboard there. And then the other lockout, there's a red switch. It's a lockout for your right joystick over there. So that one's over on the right side. You got my climate controls. I'm adjusting here a little bit so it's not so loud here for you. So let's start with our right joystick. Right is your boom and bucket controls, okay? So to activate that on the Komatsu, I just toggle that once, the green light will come on the display. So if I pull back on this right joystick, it's gonna raise this up. And if I go to the right, it'll open the bucket. If I go to the left, it'll close the bucket. And then if I go forward, it'll bring that back down. Very similar to an excavator. So if you know how to operate an excavator, right joystick, same. Boom and bucket, boom up, forward, back, left, right is opening and closing it. That's our right. On this right joystick too, there is an alternative shifter on this. It's got forward, neutral, reverse right there. Some people go that way. We train new operators to just use their left hand for driving, right for the boom and bucket, but as you get more advanced, you might prefer to do the shifting all with your right hand, right on that little switch. For the Komatsus, there is a switch over on the right side. It's got the forward and reverse. That's what activates that. Otherwise, it will not work. If you hear it beeping right now, it won't work unless I have that switch activated. So that's our right joystick. Now, left is our steering. For us, we use the shifter. It looks like a turn signal on the left side. It's got forward, neutral, reverse, and it's gonna beep. We're in park right now, that's why it's doing that. And then we've got speed settings. So you see it 1 through 4. We usually start new operators out number 2 right there. And then our steering. You'll notice the biggest thing with a wheel loader, they are articulated, meaning they have a pivot point right in the center. You'll notice on wheel loaders, the front tires don't actually turn like you would in a car. This thing will actually articulate. So that takes a little bit of getting used to. And those are our primary controls. The rest of it on the dash, you'll see your indicators, everything you need on there. We got lights on here. There's a ride control on the Komatsus. That's that little switch there. And most other manufacturers have something similar. What that does, it basically, instead of locking out your boom cylinder while you're going, it'll actually do little adjustments, and it keeps you from kind of doing a pendulum if you're going over any kind of bumps. Makes it a little bit smoother. So you usually want to have that on. Climate control in all the Komatsus is always the blue buttons there. We got turn signals, lights, everything on the right of the steering column. Backup camera to the right. And then on the right side here, this is a variable speed when you're in the number 1 setting that you can adjust. We got traction control. We're normally at automatic. There's 3 different ones here that you can have it set. This is if we're changing to a bucket or forks. It adjusts the kick out on the top. And that's also the kick out adjustment over there. So that's the joysticks there. Above me, I got stereo, there's a defrost, things like that. Most important, make sure you're comfortable where you're sitting with the seat, and then you've got mirrors. So I've got mirrors all around me here. It's very similar to a car. Got my backup camera. So now that we got that said, right foot on the brake, take the parking brake off. That red P goes away on the display. I'm going to click this into forward gear, move that right foot over, and then I'm driving. So with this, our driving position, if you see, what you generally want to do is have the boom down low enough so you can see all the way over it. So what you don't want to do is if I go all the way down, push this all the way forward, it will actually drag the bottom of the bucket. So you don't want to be all the way down. But obviously, if I pull this up right now, we don't want to be driving like this because I can't generally see out in front of me. So the happy medium there is kind of, you should have, if you see your steering column, you generally want that boom cylinder all the way down below it so you can see all the way over it. The other piece, we teach our new operators to have their bucket closed. Now we have a little cheat. On our bucket, if you can see it, there are little red lines. We painted red lines on the corners. That's typically, those lines on the top of the bucket generally match the blade angle because you can't see that. We're sitting behind it. So the bucket's curled up. We have it closed when we're driving. That's typically how we train. Well, before we go in, you'll see we're going to flatten it out. And this is kind of what our scooping, our loading position is going to be. Now, a lot of operators, just for efficiency, will return it and they'll just drive around like this, which again is perfectly acceptable. We just like people, if they don't train that way initially, sometimes they're driving around. If they got their bucket down at all and they drive into something, they can scoop in. So it's better when it's closed up, you're not running into any issues. It's just going to kind of roll up on it. It won't actually scoop in anything. So I'm going to come forward here. We're using our mount here. Generally want to be pretty straight up with this. Now this is where I'm going to open my bucket. Now for us, you're looking at the top of the bucket. I have red lines on ours to see it, but you generally want to see what the blade angle is. You're not going to want to go in curled up. You're not going to get a scoop. And then we bring it down. Usually I recommend actually being off the ground. 2 to 3 inches, just so you don't scoop in. Now there's 3 things we do when we're loading the bucket. You don't just drive in and scoop it. We want to try and maintain forward motion. So we're going to try and drive into this pile. And first I'm going to drive in and kind of get stuck. Then once I get in there, I'm going to start pulling back on my boom to start raising that bucket up. Then when it's at about a dashboard level, that's when I'm going to curl it up. So kind of looks like this. I'm going to go in here slowly. Now if you look right now, I've got traction control on. My tires are spinning a little bit. That's obviously a big no-no on a job site. You do not want to spin up because you're basically going to be tearing up the ground and everything. So you want to try and have where you're going into it without spinning your tires. While I'm doing that, I'll be pulling, now I'm in there, I'm going to start pulling back on my right hand to drive into this thing. And then right up around my dash, I am curling up as well. And there we go. We got a nice full loaded bucket. I'm in reverse, checking behind me, looking in mirrors. And as I'm backing up, this is where I start bringing it down so I can see over it. Then we're going to drive to the other side. Easiest to steer these things. That's why they put these little steering knobs on these so you don't get a lot of shoulder fatigue. It's just using your left hand. So in an ideal situation, your left hand's on this steering knob, your right hand stays on this joystick. So you got both of those covered. Bringing it around. And generally you want to line up as straight as possible. Now this is where I'm going to start raising it up. Now you'll see as I'm pulling back, it actually has an auto level where it's tilting this bucket away from you. That's a good thing, because if I didn't do that, I started curling, I could actually lose dirt over the back of this. Now, I'll be driving straight in here. You just want to be high enough, and you don't high enough to clear the pile, but you also don't want to let your tires drive up this mound at all. So once I'm up there, now I'm going to start dumping. Right hand to the right. As I'm doing that, I can be pulling back as well at the same time, and that dumps it. Sometimes if you have sticky material, you might bang this open a little bit. Then after that, I like to, again, teach curling it all the way up so you know it's closed. Click it in reverse, looking behind me, back straight up, and I'll start bringing it down. Stops about halfway, and I'll take one more scoop from right here and have those red lines roughly horizontal, put it forward. Once I start getting once I feel kind of stuck in there, again, try not to let your tires spin at all, but you also are trying to give it some power so it can basically be driving into this thing. Nice and loaded there. In reverse, behind you in the mirrors. I'm bringing it back down. Driving it around. Bring this back. Raise it up. Now, biggest danger points here on wheel loaders, they are very top heavy. So this is about my most vulnerable time. Anytime you're above the cap, you'll see if I do this at all, I'm feeling this whole machine swaying. So you want to be really, really cautious. The other thing I'll see new operators, if they try and drive up this, right there I can start to feel it. This is really the biggest danger zone for a wheel loader, is when you're trying to maneuver a lot when that bucket is fully loaded. So in general, you want to keep it low and tight to the ground. You should just be inching forward slowly to start dumping it. Dump it right there. Now for an expert here, a lot of these have return to dig. So if I just take this right joystick and I just go hard left, I let go of that joystick, it'll stop right there. And it basically, you have those settings in there where it's ready to go. So now if I just push right hand forward, you'll notice it's maintaining that all the way down. This is good for scenarios where if you're loading a dump truck a lot, you're doing a lot of repetitive, instead of you have an open and close, I'm right back to normal. I can go in and do that again. I dump this right here. Final piece I want to show you is floating the blade. So similar to a dozer, there is a feature on this to disengage the hydraulic. So if I set this flat, you never want to do this above, on a Komatsu, if you actually push that forward, it'll literally drop it. So if I've got this blade down like this, if I take this right joystick and just jam it forward like that, you'll see the joystick actually lock forward. What that does is disengage the boom cylinder. It's very similar to on a skid steer or even a bulldozer where you float it. There's no hydraulic pressure there. I can still go right and left, so if I want to do this, I'm going flat. And if I start, I'm just trying to keep that bucket flat. You'll see how it's flattening things out. See, watching again where I'm going. This is good to smooth out. You can also have a loaded bucket with weight in it. Sometimes it'll push it down. To pull it out of float, I just pull back on it, keep driving back so you don't leave a big pile. And there we go, we're out of it. The other way you can do it, if you really have a really rough material, you're trying to get more of a rough cut in there. Same thing, put it down flat. But this time, instead of using the bottom of the bucket, I'm actually going to use the blade edge. So I'm going to roll it. Now I'm actually using, you can see behind it. You don't want to roll it all the way in. You get in trouble there. At about a 45-degree angle, I can see behind that blade. Now I start going that way. You'll see I'm getting actually a big layer of dirt right behind. I'm watching behind me where I'm going. But you see how this will give me, if I got a bunch of mounds or anything like that, it'll smooth it out. The key on these though, similar to in a skid steer, you don't just want to pull back on that blade right now. If I did, raise it up, I'm going to leave a big pile. So I'm going to take my right hand, just pull it out of float. And then I'm just going to pull up a little bit, but keep letting this trail off. So you're trying to let this go out. I might have to push it forward, trying to let it run out on its own, nice and gentle. So I don't leave a big pile, and there we go. Put it back into forward. Bring this around. Always like to set that bucket flat on the ground, just like that. For this, you got a lockout lever on the right side. I've got my parking brake right there. Oh, put it in neutral. That gives me a good indicator. In neutral, parking brake, I got the solid red P, and we're good to go. I usually like to let them idle, depending on temperature, 15, 30 seconds. They don't recommend Komatsu's idle very long, It's not great for the engine, for the diesel exhaust on there. So let it idle down and we're good. Shut that off. And seatbelt. Right there. Key, 3 points contact getting out. Key is making sure these doors latch. I see too many operators that just swing the door open. There's handles on these, and I've seen several people try and grab that, and then the door moves on you. 3 points contact. Coming out right there. Latch is right there. There we go. Guys, hope you enjoyed. That was our 360 on the Komatsu wheel loader. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Just tune into our channel. We've got others. We've got other 360s. We've got other how-tos. So thanks a lot, you guys. Have a good one.